All right. Hey, everybody. It's amazing to see so many people on a Saturday afternoon. Kudos to you for coming out at this time. And also to Wiki Expo for always managing to put up a good show for so many people in the audience on a Saturday. So I'm going to be talking to you today about new growth models in Web3. Why? You can have a little look about who I am, but in the meantime, I'm going to ask you, when we talk about growth models, what is the first thing that comes to mind for you? What is that secret ingredient that Web3 needs in order to grow? It's a buzzword we hear all the time. The C word, community, right? That's always what we say. In order for a project to succeed, they need community. So we already know that attention in Web3 is at an absolute premium because there's so many projects wanting attention. If you are following the data on CoinMarketCap, you'll see the amount of new projects on a daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly basis. Where do 99% of them end up? I think we all know the answer to that, which is really why there is a problem in Web3. So, anyone have any idea what this is? We like charts in this industry, but what is this chart about? It's the chart that makes things happen or not happen. Fear and greed index. It's very interesting to work in an industry where the health of the industry is measured by fear and greed. However, here we are. So there are two distinct realities for a project. If you're a project in a bear market, there's no one to pay attention to you. If you're a project in a bull market, there are gazillions of other projects vying for the same people's attention. So attention is ultimately the currency here. So when we talk about a Web3 community, what is the typical community that we are referring to? We are talking about an early stage community. Typically, that's pre-IDO, initial DEX offering, after which the project's token will be trading on the live market. Now, there's a couple of issues with building an early stage community before the project has any funds. You are growing through hype, which is great on crypto Twitter, but not so great for sustainable token growth. And of course, the project is engaging with you on a promise of what you are going to build. That's one of the other issues in Web3 is we are funding projects with not even an MVP, but they are telling the community, yes, we promise, give us this money and we'll show you the final product afterwards. And then of course, the Web3 community is by and large still speculative. That's how the market works, that's how it moves. And so here we find ourselves in this very interesting industry. Why early projects are important to founders. Despite the fact that hype moves the market, there's also other considerations that we need to factor in. When an early stage project goes to an institutional investor, to a VC, the VC says, show me your community. Okay, but we just started, we don't have a community yet. Well, sorry, then I can't invest. Grow a community, come back to me. Now, this is a catch-22 that projects found themselves in because who are the early supporters that are drawn to your project before there's much to show? We can see that there is a clear correlation between a successful, engaged community that is paying attention to what the project is doing, and transaction volumes, the growth of the token. This is the reality that founders find themselves in. It is not always an easy market. Let's call it the crypto Twitter market for shorthand. It's not always easy to grow a project that has sustainable, meaningful value in a model where everyone is just after short-term speculation. But we can see here, there is a need to have a very engaged community. However, Look at the statistics. 3 months post-IDO, the average project sees a huge drop. 60 to 70% user drop, which is insane. Are we only building for the IDO? It's not easy doing marketing in Web3, and it's not easy building community in Web3. The odds are stacked against you from Web2, and the odds are very often stacked against you from within Web3. Here are some case studies. Sure, you've all heard of SushiSwap, you've all heard of Uniswap. Even for them, very, very large companies, major players in the Web3 market, the statistics look exactly the same. We are building community for a short-term period of time, and post the IDO, they leave, and we are left with nothing. There is a predictable life cycle in Web3, and this is the one that I am referring to right now. Difficult to find community in the beginning, traction because of airdrops and the upcoming IDO, and as soon as the IDO is done, it's all done. Some of you might be familiar with the Orbit model. Now, the Orbit model talks about how to build engaging high gravitas communities. Now, we can also see a similar pattern in Web3. There are communities of varying layers and levels for a project. Some are only vaguely, familiar with the project. They might follow them on Twitter, but that's it. And then there are other community members who are absolute ambassadors. So what I've done is I've reworked this model a little bit. So we can look at the difference between the traditional Web3 model and the model that I will be talking about today. So if you look at the middle row, the traditional Web3 model, typically how community building works, we enter through the hype chasers. Those are the guys looking for the giveaways on Twitter. They are looking for the airdrops. That's how typically a project starts building a community. Those guys are not there because they are interested in your project. They are there because you're giving them free stuff. Now, that ought to then translate into a more sustainable community down the line. However, if we look at the trajectory, we see from hype chasers, now we get speculators. Let's pump this token as high as it can go, and then as soon as we're able to cash out, we're gone, and we don't even remember the name of your project. You do, however, get supporters, although the supporters are not usually the guys that come on day one, unless you as a founder is able to communicate and express your vision and find people early on to believe in you, which is not easy, which is why we have the model that we have. And then ultimately, if you think about the typical Web3 project, who are the people really pushing for their project? The KOLs that are getting paid. As soon as they have gotten paid, as soon as they've promoted your project, they're out. And where does that leave your community? So what we will be talking about today are new models that flip the traditional Web3 model on its head. And I'll go into exactly what that means. So really, just to recap, the 3 phases of early stage community building difficulties. Phase 1, you have no money, you have no community. You have no community, you have no money, because that is the entry ticket that a VC wants. Now we come to phase 2. Great, the IDO is on its way, good times. Except everyone who is participating in our marketing and community building efforts can't wait for the IDO so they can sell our tokens. So yeah, does not work out well. And then finally, this is where reality hits. Great, this fantastic roadmap milestone that I've been building up to is here. It's come and gone, my token is live, and there's no one who wants to trade it. Because there's no use case, maybe. That's a very important point. Never have a project without a use case. But a lot of projects have have use cases. The problem is not always the use case. Sometimes it's the fact that the people that are following us because of the traditional community building model. So ultimately, if we are going to do things differently in Web3, I don't know about all of you guys, I am here in Web3 because I want to do things differently. I want to make things better than they were in traditional models. Now, user centricity means to put the user first. It doesn't mean a checklist to say, hey, there are 5 things to do and one of them is putting the user first. User centricity means you put the user before yourself. That is what it means to be user-centric. If I am serving a group of people, I want to know that I am solving their problem. I don't want to think that I have a fantastic solution. If only they believe that they have a problem, they will come to me. They need to know they have a problem, and when they come to me, I need to be able to solve it. Now, in Web3, this is not what we do. We do not focus on the user. That's why the UI, the UX, the onboarding, everything is difficult and everything is basically unpleasant. How are we going to onboard anybody? So today we are going to look at active participation rewards. What does that mean? Not airdrops. What are some long-term value alignments between users and platforms? And how can we personalize engagement? So back to this model. So E2E POA stands for engage to earn and proof of attention. Now let's, before we get into the details, look at why it's necessary to have a different model. If I attract hype chasers, I know why they are there. They are not there because they want to contribute meaningfully or valuably. They are there because they want the free stuff. Now, if I keep on reinforcing these behaviors because that's how marketing and community building is done, I will get the same results as everyone else. However, if you take an approach of someone is able to be empowered, not because of your project necessarily, and you'll understand why I'm saying this, but because your user-centric design has always put them at the center. That makes your product offering very different than someone that builds a solution because they like the solution. Business 101. Now, second, then we have speculators in the traditional model. They are there for the quick gains. This is the behavior that we are reinforcing as an industry. What if we flip it on its head and say, instead of people speculating, I want people to be participating, whatever that means. Yes, it's great to have supporters, but wouldn't you rather have ambassadors? Yes, it's great if you have the money to pay a KOL obscene amounts of money in order to talk great things about your project in the media. But what if average, everyday retail investors become micro-influencers for your project? The network effect, word of mouth. So let's look a little bit at how this would work. I think the important thing to mention is we had blockchain. Out of blockchain, the technology, originated the first case, cryptocurrency. From cryptocurrency, we've grown to an industry called Web3 that there's so many different aspects to this industry that you can meet new people on a daily basis that are doing, they are doing things you've never heard of. However, ultimately, no matter what the technology is, no matter what the use case or the application is, Web3 is about saying that there should be a better, what does better mean? A more balanced, a more equal relationship between retail investors, between users, and between platforms. So if we are going to have a Web3 solution, it should give people more benefits than what they are getting in Web2. Otherwise, there's no reason to make the switch. I'm not going to go into this because I'm not sure I have enough time, but I will very briefly mention that when we are marketing in Web3, we are marketing blind. There's a lot of analytics that are not being utilized by Web3 companies. And also because there's a massive silo between marketing on Web 2 and marketing on Web 3. So the question then becomes, how, if you are marketing and advertising to a user, how are you doing it? Are you expecting them to come to your Twitter page? Are you expecting them to come to your website, to read your newsletter, to go to your events? Or do you meet them where they are? I don't know about you guys, but when I need to go out to get my morning coffee, I pretty much decide to skip it unless it's delivered to my door. So if we are bringing value, we need to bring value where people are as opposed to wanting them to make changes to meet our goals. So what we ultimately need is we need to flip the model of Web3 community building and Web3 growth on its head. We need to put the people that we are supposedly doing this for at front and center. We need to say that yes, these models that we have now are the way that things are being done, but we also need to say we don't have to do them this way. We can start changing things so that when you go home to your family for dinner, they don't ask you, are you still in crypto? How's that working out for you? Or, oh, crypto is just a scam, right? So if you are tired of being the person having to defend people that you don't actually agree with, crypto is great, but it's also terrible, then we, the people, are the ones that need to start thinking differently about how we do crypto, about how we do Web3. These technologies are incredible, but they are only incredible if the world chooses to adopt them. And the world will not adopt them if this is the way that we are doing things. It's not sustainable and it simply won't last. So ultimately, what we need to do is we need to understand that something is only sustainable when the value lasts over time. If I buy something, I'm not buying something thinking it's going to break tomorrow. I might, but that means it's an emergency and it's the only thing I have available. Whenever I have options, I will choose the option that is absolutely right for me. Web3 is not doing that right now. We are not giving people the best possible options. We are taking the best from Web 2 and we are taking the worst from Web 2. So let's just stop. We are taking some of the worst from the traditional financial system too. So let's move on and create a better future for next Christmas when people are again asking, are you still in crypto? Maybe you can say it with a little bit more pride then. So going to leave you with a real-world example of how AdLunam has implemented Engage to Earn and Proof of Attention. Of course, my invitation to you is to take this and make it your own. Think, if you are building something, how are you able to leverage what people want independently of you and then become the go-to platform to give them that as opposed to having to try and sell them. When you are selling people, you're doing something wrong. I have no idea how this plays, apologies. I don't think it's going to play. Well, please connect with me afterwards and I will tell you more if need be. This is our Engage to Earn platform. Would love to talk about it. Was not going to talk about it. Do not want to talk about it instead of the video. Please come to me and we'll have a chat. So on that note, thank you so much. Once again, I think it's absolutely incredible to spend 2 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon in Bangkok when there's so much amazing food and great weather outside. You guys are here, so kudos to you for investing in yourself. Thank you. Have a great conference.